quick run through on taking off a few of the panels on the Ninja and getting to the spark plugs. So I've already taken this off, but you're going to first remove the passenger seat with the key. That will expose 4 bolts. You've got 2 here and 2 back here. They're all 4mm Allen. Pop those out. And then this little clamshell has these little plastic bits here, so you'll actually slide these back. As you can see, they're little hooks. So this is on here, and you would push it toward the back of the bike a little bit, and it'll just come right off. Don't want to break those things. That will expose your 2 seat bolts. These are 10 mil, so you can rip those out, and then after that, the seat will slide back also a little bit. So slide back, pull up, that'll come off. The seat will expose these guys here for this trim piece that goes along the tank. So there's this piece. You can see there's one right here in the front, right here, and then there's one in the back. So those are also 4mm Allens. Pop those out, and then there is a little hook on the tank. If you can see it right there above the bolt, you see next to the Velcro. Once the bolts are off, you can kind of pull on this back section near the Velcro to pop it off, and then you have to kind of tweak it, like pull gently outward and slide it forward and get this little hook in the plastic to come off this rubber piece. So that'll slide off, and then you've got a couple of these little rubber pop snap guys. There's one, and then there's a second smaller one, and you kind of gently pry the front, and it has this weird oval shaped kind of hooks that snap in the front. Just kind of gently wiggle it around and pull it, and it should pop off. And once that's off, you've got your main tank bolt here. Looks like 8mm, and then you can take these out if you want to take the whole tank off, or I'm going to leave it in probably and just tilt the tank back. So for this top plastic cover, you don't necessarily have to take it off. You want to just tilt the tank up, but it is just on with 2 of these little rubber grommet snaps here. They just pop into the tank, so you just pull gently up and it'll pop off. Alright, so this is what I usually do, is just, if I can get away with it, I leave the tank on, because modern sport bikes often have hinges back here for this very purpose. So you can leave it on. At first there will be 2 little hoses under here. There's one there, and then there's one here. So you'll only be able to move the tank a little bit. You can get your hand in there and get those off, and then you'll be able to pull the tank all the way up. The fuel line is down here. It goes kind of straight down, and it's not very tight, so you're able to tilt the tank pretty high up without stressing it. And I just put a little loop of rope here and hooked a strap. To get to the airbox bolt, you take the steering stabilizer bolts out, and then it just kind of sits here. And there's a little plastic bracket that's just sitting there holding your cables, and that lifts right out once these bolts are off. That will stay in place. That would be awesome. And then there's a bolt here in the front of the airbox that you can take out. It's a 5mm Allen, I think. There's this little sensor here that just unplugs. There's another one here that you can just slip this whole rubber guy out. You don't have to unplug it. You can just slip it off the carrier. You can get to all the upper injectors here. There's these little, you can pull in these little retaining clips. They just slide out of there. They're pretty loose. Those things are usually evil and hard to get out, but they were easy on this. There's also little sensors under this little flap. And those just pop off those tangs. They're just hanging here. There is one big hose right here. So you'll have to get that guy off with probably a screwdriver. Just gently push it down. Try not to scrape up the plastic hose little nipple there. There's another big hose at the back of the airbox, if you can see it. There it is. There's a little clip that goes in this hole for the fuel line, and you can just pinch the little barbs together and push it through, and then you can move this line, kind of pull it out of the way and get to this hose, and you'll be able to get to the air intake stuff. There's some other wiring stuff back in there, like hanging on those little pieces there. You can kind of unhook those and kind of fold them out of the way too. I just disconnected the upper fuel line. It's right here, has kind of a funny clip you have to open up. I had to kind of push one side with my finger and the other side open with a screwdriver, and then this slides back and it stays in place. You don't have to take it all the way out. You can just snap it back in when it is back on. Once you get all this stuff out of the way, you'll see the little clamps for the airbox. There's only 2 of them because they're doubled up. So 1 bolt clamps for 2 cylinders. And you will need a long, the perspective makes it look shorter, but this is like an 8-inch long Allen wrench right here that reaches all the way across to get this bolt on the underside. And then you'll go to the other side and there's a matching bolt that's right here to the right. You can barely tell. But loosen those guys up. They're 5 mil. And then that's what clamps it on. You can pop it off after that. There's one more hose that I forgot and I missed. This little guy, but you can easily get it off when the airbox is up. And then it kind of just slips back and the intake in the front kind of just slips out and then lifts the whole thing out of the way. And then you've got access to your plugs, which I just disconnected. I think this is the pair valve here. And then just disconnect each little coil pack on the plugs, and then you can wiggle those and pull them straight out. This one on the left side was really annoying to lift up because you only have the little plug area to kind of pull on, and there's the cables that are in the way. So I actually looped a little bit of that same orange rope around it so I could kind of tug on that up while I wiggled it with the other hand, and that got it to come loose and get out of there. So if that one's a problem, you can try that. But everything else can stay in there. I'm just doing the plugs, so leave it all alone. If you don't have a special spark plug socket, then this trick will help you get them out and potentially even get them in and threaded. Stick a little bit of tube on there that'll fit, and you can kind of just peek in there with a flashlight and stick it onto the top, and then you can yank the plug out with it. There's another way if you don't have any tubing or don't like that idea. In the past I've also used bigger tubes to actually get it over the white part, which is a little easier because then it'll slip over the actual little contact point is smaller and will guide the tube on. But this one all the way to the left I couldn't get out with my tube because I couldn't even see it, so I had to use a magnet, but that worked too.